Good morning, everyone. It is now 9:45, and I would like to call the Board of Directors meeting on the Maryland Environmental Service to begin. Call the order at 9:45, October 22nd, 2020. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 24th, 2020 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
This is JP. I'll approve those minutes.
Is there a second?
Morgan Hall, second. Morgan Hall, second.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? All in favor of the approval of the minutes from the September 24th, 2020 meeting? Please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? The minutes from the September 24th meeting are approved. Good morning, everyone. It has been a very productive last month. I will read my director's report and then go on. So the next item of the agenda is my director's report. So first, I would like to continue to report on the acting director's expenses since the last board of directors meeting. I've incurred no expenses in the past month. There was one expense I was reviewing at around the last board meeting's time frame, but I decided to move forward with an electronic Christmas card to clients and partners that will not add any expense. I continue to refrain from travel and business expenses given the pandemic to the greatest extent possible. As you have reviewed Resolution 20-10-2R, that board resolution regarding director's expense reimbursement establishes the guidelines that the director will have to abide by and the procedure for oversight on a monthly basis by the board of directors. That will come up later in the session along with another board resolution. I'd like to also start with an introduction to Ms. Winsome Condra. She has been added to the team way back in August as a response to all of the inquiries into expenses. I discovered that there was no internal auditor at MES, that position had been vacant for a while. And we moved forward with a panel of managing directors, and I'd like to thank them, the operating managing directors that participated in the search, and Mr. Timothy Barnes, in finding an impressive new member of the team. She has an impressive background from both the private and public organizations, including the large New York, New Jersey Port Authority, and has had multiple capacities in businesses large and small. Ms. Condra has hit the ground running and is already assisting the Executive Office and the Attorney General in responding to inquiries and investigating complaints. I'd like you all to give a warm welcome. Please give a warm welcome to Ms. Condra.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
So I'm going a little fast, but on the screen you see to the left of the screen, the card holder activity statement for my purchase card. It has no items. And to the right of the screen, you see the financial expense reports. So this would be a report. This is a report that would be generated from any receipts that I would submit for approval. And if you have any questions, we'll come up to the board resolution. If there's any questions on the processes that I presented to Mr. Coleman to then outline as a board resolution, we can deal with it when we get to the board resolutions. Next item I'd like to discuss and request the motion for is to nominate Mrs. Pamela Fuller formally as the clerk of the board. She is a paralegal, a long-serving MES employee in the Attorney General's office. The clerk will, under the supervision of the board secretary, be responsible for preparing the meeting notices, preparing an initial set of meeting minutes for both open and closed sessions of the board, and maintaining the files of the board meetings in support, again, of the secretary. I'd like to ask for a motion.
Dr. Glass, this is Joe C. So moved.
This is JP. I'll second it.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Mrs. Fuller is really critical and has been a joy to work with in the first 4 months of my tenure, and is very professional and keeps us all, and when I say all, I mean the managing team and down to the chiefs and division directors, engaged and on point in providing all this information to you all in a timely manner. So thank you again, and congratulations, Mrs. Fuller, for the formal title. Please add it to your resume, your LinkedIn page, and put it out there. Just so.
Thank you.
And I have a step stool she can stand on for her raise.
Before getting into meetings with stakeholders, I was recently informed of a particular auspicious moment in time today, and I would like to wish Ms. Tammy Banta a very, very happy birthday. I can't see her face. I'm sure she's blushing.
Happy birthday, Tammy.
Birthday,
Happy
I
birthday.
am blushing, and thank you,
Happy
everyone. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Tammy.
Congratulations on your new 45th birthday, or are we going to go
Yes.
35? 45,
Yes.
45,
Yeah,
okay.
24.
24, there
Yeah,
we go.
yeah.
So to start staying in Mrs. Banta's area, I do want to give a couple give a moment of praise to a couple of her team members. Kristen Fiddler and Kristen Keene of the Harbor Development Program at M.MPA wanted to give a strong shout out for Mr. Robert Tarian, the Cox Creek manager. And they stated that he is the mastermind of all things innovative reuse, capacity recovery, and identifying efficiencies for material management. So I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Natarian yet, but I want to give a shouty thanks to him and all of his great work, particularly as it relates to a new project coming online of innovative reuse and placement of material from Ridgely Cove project from the port. So cheers to Mr. Natarian. Now that we're streaming on YouTube, it would be great if team members that, if they have time out of their busy schedules and their billable hours, but anyone that's near Mr. Natarian, please give him a hearty congratulations and thanks for his great work. So there's one other quote that also comes from that division. I don't want Mr. Tomaszewski or Mr. Gillespie think that I'm not thinking of them too, but this also came in last week from the Army Corps of Engineers. The MES operators at Poplar Island are the best in the world and great at what they do. The gentleman also later said that the Poplar Island project would not be successful without the partnership and flexibility with M.MPA and MES. So big shout out to the Poplar Island team in environmental dredging and restoration as well. Sticking with that same group, not to say anything, I did have a great meeting on September 29th with Executive Director Bill Doyle. We introduced ourselves and focused on the upcoming enhancement at Seagirth Berth 3 and the dredging associated with the approach and turnaround for post-Panamax ships. Mr. Doyle was very interested in the engineer's estimate, and I was able to share the great work of Mrs. Strevig on Ms. Banta's team as well. So that's enough with EDR. Ms. Banta said enough. Too much praise is never enough, and she always beats out the two gentlemen in the other operating groups.
Exactly.
So, but on October 6, 2020, I'm happy to report a great meeting also with Mr. Adam Ortiz, Director of Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection, regarding the expansion of Leaf Grow Gold, and potentially other products. I've had follow-up meetings with Mr. Tomaszewski's team. He was only not present there because he was enjoying a well-deserved vacation with his grandchildren in Disney. But we have a follow-up meeting scheduled with Mr. Ortiz and Mr. Joe Gill, Director of Prince George's County Department of Environment, to discuss this idea. Mr. Tomaszewski's team has already prepared a briefing and has some background information, and we're looking at expansion. Montgomery County is looking at expansion of food waste to sweeten nice projects with a strong organic carbon content. So a great opportunity with two of our major client partners in the solid waste and recycling area. On October, and not to leave out Mr. Gillespie's team, on October 20th, just 2 days ago, we had a great annual meeting with the Maryland Park Service Department of Natural Resources. In the meeting, Mr. Gillespie led a presentation reviewing the capital and operating programs in support of water and wastewater systems throughout the Park Service, reviewed the financials from 2020 as presented by Mr. Patel. I don't think I've announced this, and I hate to take a segue in the middle of Mr. Gillespie's praise, but I want all to welcome Mr. Hemant Patel, a long-serving member of the finance team, as the acting managing director of finance. He has proved himself to be an incredibly knowledgeable professional, both in IT systems and in finance, and has been a great help to me over the last couple of months. So, Mr. Patel, hearty congratulations on what's now an acting position, but I'm sure we will evaluate our working relationship and hopefully move on to permanent managing director of finance. So sorry for that segue, but I was remiss in not including that in my director's report earlier. So welcome, Mr. Patel, although you've been here a long time. Back to Mr. Gillespie's team. Ms. Atina, who is the park superintendent, at the end of that presentation gave a thanks to the MES team and expressed that she has full confidence and support of MES in supporting the Park Service and would like to expand that work in another area as they evaluate solar panels for electricity at park facilities throughout the state. Before I left DNR, there was an initiative that I kicked off. Well, I really picked up from another member of the management team under the direction of the Secretary Hadway Riccio to expand EV charging, which is a public service commitment right now that has continued to progress. I don't know its status right now, but it was expanding. They had 75 sites we identified before, teaming that with solar power so that the recharging of electric vehicles that visited the parks would be a great success. So she mentioned that. And I also continue to discuss that with MEA is supporting DNR with that effort in the Park Service. And MEA mentioned to them that there was an MOU with MES already, and that they should try to develop another agreement which is just directly with MES, looking at electric energy through solar power. So that was a great kudos to Mr. Gillespie and his team, and it was a very successful meeting, and that was all great. So that's all those positives I want to get out first. The draft report from RSM on the audit of the managing director's expenses in FY 2020 is substantially complete. Mrs. Jackson Jenkins and I have shared comments with Mrs. Coleman of RSM. Mrs. Coleman will be appearing at 10 o'clock today to go over the FY 2020 annual audit. They are both still in draft form, and there are several steps remaining, but they are proceeding nicely. Payment to Sudlersville. An initial payment from Sudlersville was received in early September. Unfortunately, as we are approaching late October, a second payment has not been received. Given the continuing issue, I recommend that that by November 1st that we submit a 30-day notice to Sudlersville, and that we move to have the Attorney General look into the collection of the debt, but that we stop digging the hole further. There were a lot of assurances given. I don't know if they've signed any further agreements, but I just want to get it out there before we look at our debts, that our collection issues that they have not paid for September to date. So I share with you all a presentation that is close to being final However, I was going to present it, but I didn't want to take up too much time in this meeting, as there's lots of other business to take care of. But my review, I've finished reading the annotated code section for MES. I've finished reading the COMAR regulations related to MES, and I'm in the middle of reading all of the board resolutions that relate to MES. Following that, I will also continue to work on policies, and I've established and we'll kick off next week an entire policy project that will have long-serving members of MES work together to review all of our policies and to update all of our policies, to right-size them, not just for to right-size them for MES, not just copy policies at DBM that may not be appropriate to our functioning. I'm approximately halfway through the board resolutions, as I mentioned. We have started adding board resolutions and board meeting minutes to the webpage, menv.com. So we have board meeting minutes now on the web back to 2004, and there is a placeholder for resolutions, board resolutions on that same page. So there's some issues with Laserfiche and copying and getting everything together, but we're still moving to have all that be open and transparent right there on our board website. Along with that, that presentation on matching or describing the difference between MES compensation package and benefits package with the state package, it's substantially complete, but has led to two other efforts, one of which is Ms. Banta and Mr. Farah are leading a team to start the review of the history of MES and how it relates to the mission values and how we function. So that is an ongoing project. I've been provided some materials that was current to 2016, and we're going to finish that up and have that as a package as well, as a presentation. Mr. Farrow is also continuing to work on dynamic presentation of great stories. We started with the concept of a top 10. Because there's so many great stories, we can't be limited to 10. We're up to 15, and those are all in production right now. And we'll hopefully be ready to produce them in the next month or two. So I've, all right, and then I think I said the rest of it by memory. So that concludes my director's report. Are there any questions? Okay. With that, we'll move on to the agency activity report. Are there any questions for the managing directors related to the agency activity report?
Dr. Blatt. Pardon. Page 185. Cox Creek, Seeger, and Colgate Creek dredging caught my attention. If somebody could expand on that.
Hi, Joe. This is Tammy. The Cox Creek expanded project, the port just signed off on the $33.9 million proposal that we submitted to them. And this is for the plus 60 dike raising at the facility. And that is raising the dike that's on the existing facility up to plus 60, and then expansion as well onto the upland area there. So that's an exciting addition of work for us at the site. The Colgate Creek project, it's an energy transfer port project, and it is Colgate Creek is located between Seagirt Marine Terminal and Dundalk Marine Terminal. And this will be a dredging project in the area that will ultimately result in some innovative reuse of the material. That specifics on what the innovative reuse are, we haven't gotten to that yet. We haven't figured that one out. But another big project that we have coming forward under energy transfer ports. And then the Seagirt Marine Terminal, Seagirt Berth 3 dredging project is actually one of the items that I'll be presenting on today in a little bit under the group updates.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. On page 2 of 5, the SHA District 3 task number 3 amendment.
That one's Jason.
Yes. Hi, Joe. This is Jason Gillespie. So this is work that we have been doing with SHA District 3 for some time. It's primarily stormwater remediation work. That task order and the MOU as well has been amended to where not only District 3 will use this agreement, but the other districts within SHA as well. District 3 will just be the keeper of the contract documents, really on the SHA side. The MOU has been executed. The change order that you see here has not been executed yesterday or as of yet. As of yesterday, I know that the OHE on state highway side has signed off on the agreement. We're just waiting for final execution from the district engineer within District 3. We do have a meeting coming up, a quarterly meeting with SHA to discuss all outstanding agreements and task orders. If we haven't heard within a week, I'll have opportunity to discuss that with the Director of Administration for SHA.
Okay, thank you, Tammy and Jason. Just page 3 of 5, one observation. It's good to see we're doing work in Baltimore County again. And then finally on page 5 of 5, I know Leslie can't comment on this, but the Prince George's County items are huge. Can anybody elaborate on those?
Yes, this is Steve Tomczewski. The first item, which is FY21, that for $11 million, that's close to being finalized for this year for FY21. And that the project is the Brown Station landfill project, which is a multi-task project from Area C, the major landfill expansion, to Sandy Hill landfill that's closed, leachate system there, all kind of things. And the other one, the big one, that's for a 5-year arrangement. And the county's been kind of struggling with getting that complete. I think there's a question whether they're going to be able to do a multi-year deal. And so that's why that's still in there. But the first one is making pretty good progress on that. That should be signed soon, I hope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the managing directors on the agency activity report? Hearing none, let's move on to, well, we still got 2 minutes before, well, I guess, Ms. Jackson Jenkins, you could start off, and then if you have any comments as preparation, introducing RSM on the FY20 audit, and if you talk for 2 minutes, we can we'll be perfectly timed, even though we didn't plan it that way.
Thank you very much, Dr. Glass. Yes, we met, the audit committee met, and of course, the engagement team was Valerie Coleman, who is the audit senior manager, and Andrew Wolf, who is the audit manager, was joined by Ernie Lamonte, also of RSM. And their engagement is, or their objective is, to conduct an audit in accordance with the auditing standards generally accepted in the United States and the government auditing standards that are issued by the Comptroller General of the United States, so that they can express an opinion as to whether the financial statements of the service are fairly presented in all material respects. They also perform an audit of, as of June the 30th, 2020, so to satisfy the audit requirements imposed as a single audit act and subpart F in Title II, U.S. Code of Federal Regulations, Part 200, and Uniform Administrative Requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements. Some of their responsibilities include understanding the internal control structures, the plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurances that financial statements are free of material misstatements, whether caused by error or fraud. They're also responsible to perform tests, analysis, and review of the financial statements and the underlying support. They evaluate the accounting estimates and underlying assumptions. They evaluate the fairness and presentation of financial statements in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. And they evaluate for any non-compliance in accordance with applicable provisions of government accounting standards. So I am hopeful that at this time that the team is ready to make their brief presentation relative to their annual audit that they conducted for fiscal year 2020. And it looks like the screen is ready. Who is joining us? Valerie?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I am on.
Welcome back.
Yes.
Great time.
Great.
Okay.
I believe we
proceed.
also have Andrew Wolf on as well. So I'm going to follow your lead. Would you like that I share my computer and kind of briefly go through the presentation provided earlier?
That would be fine if that was like how you would like to proceed. Yes, please.
Absolutely. We'll go right into doing so. Let's see. Let's just sure. Hopefully everyone can see this.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So we'll go right into presenting. So yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Valerie Coleman. I'm the engagement leader for the service. And I joined right when Leslie was providing our audit overview and scope. So we'll just get right to it. We want to let everyone know that we have substantially completed our audit of the service as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2020. The audit was completed in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, as well as in accordance with government auditing standards. Our opinion on those financial statements is expected to be unmodified or known as a clean opinion and will be dated as of the date of the completion of the following three items. Completion of reviews by what is called a concurring partner, so it is a second partner review, completion of subsequent events, and the receipt of the management representation letter. So this is a representation where management signs off in terms of their responsibilities. So once these three have been completed, we will issue the final report. We anticipate this to take place next week. We've also substantially completed our testing of the compliance. So that is the federal grant awards that is under the OMB Uniform Grant Guidance. And we expect to issue those statements on or about the same date as well. There was one major program tested during the fiscal year, and our report did not note any federal compliance related matters. Our audit scope really did not change from the onset of meeting with the audit committee at the beginning of the audit back in, I believe it was June timeframe. So we had an arrangement letter dated May 27th, 2020 that outlined our responsibilities as well as the respective responsibilities of management. We also provided a planned scope and timing of the financial statement audit. This was communicated to the audit committee as well as identified the significant scope of the audit and the risk that we'd be looking into. Had there been changes from that planned scope and timing, we would have had to communicate to the audit committee. There have been no changes since that particular letter and date and time. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Andrew Wolf, that will address some of the significant matters during the audit.
Thanks, Val. So this first slide here is to really emphasize what it is that we focused on and the procedures that we went through as part of the audit. The important thing to note on this slide is that we went through a risk-based approach, both in our planning and execution of the audit itself. What this really means is that we took both a qualitative and quantitative approach in terms of deciding and looking at what was relevant for audit purposes. This involved looking at material line items on the financial statements, but also evaluating any significant or unusual transactions that might have taken place during the year, along with any sort of significant management estimates that may have been in place during fiscal year 20. So this slide here is a list of what some of those primary focus areas were. Many of these are consistent year over year and are no surprise given the fact that they are material and significant items from a financial statement perspective. So things such as the overall proper revenue recognition, we reviewed capital assets, we looked at the accrued landfill closure and post-closure care costs, things of that nature we're going to look at every single year. There was also a few items on here that I wanted to highlight. Specifically, this year we looked at the overall impact of COVID-19 on the service. We'll have a slide a little later on going into exactly some of the specific procedures that were done here, but clearly this was new this year, and we really wanted to evaluate what, if any, impact this had on overall control structure and what, if any, impact it would have on the audit that we did ourselves. And one other thing to really note, I won't go through the entire list here, but there are a few items listed on here that have little asterisks next to them. And what those denote are specifically significant management estimates and judgments that we looked at during the course of the audit. And in each one of these cases, we found that management estimates were reasonable given the facts and circumstances, and also consistent with other industry norms. So this is really just a summary of what's going to be covered on the next several slides. What this is really showing is that as part of the completion procedures that we're going through now, we went through all of these various matters and communicated them to the audit committee earlier this morning, and we'll go through them now as well. These are all items that we're required to discuss with you as part of final communications so that you can execute your responsibility as governance for the service. So we'll start at the top here by just reiterating that we did describe our responsibilities under generally accepted auditing standards and governmental auditing standards that was described in our engagement letter that was issued back in May. We also issued a separate communication regarding the plan, scope, and timing of the financial statement audit that we performed. There was no significant changes to what was listed in that initial communication regarding that plan, scope, and overall timing. And then the last item at the bottom of this slide is to really just note that there were no instances where alternative accounting treatments were available or elected by management during the current year. If they were, then they would be disclosed to you as part of these communications. We're happy to report that there were no disagreements with management. We mentioned it earlier in the audit committee call, but we really want to thank and appreciate management as a whole, specifically the accounting team, for being as available as they were to us. Obviously, everyone's dealing with the remote environment that we're all still working through, which inherently complicates things, but we appreciate the service and the team overall being available and working with us as best they could to provide everything electronically and in the remote setting that we did. We will also report that we're not aware of any consultation management had with other accountants regarding any audit or accounting or auditing matters. And then at the very bottom of this slide, this just walks through some of the significant areas that we discussed with management. Specifically, each and every year we go through proper financial statement disclosures to ensure that those have been updated properly for the current year and any new accounting treatment that's come out. We always look at the valuation and disclosures associated with the OPEB plan and then the services portion of the pension liabilities from the state. And then, again, we've mentioned this a few times already, but we really did have a discussion and look at what the overall impact was on policies, controls, and reporting associated with COVID-19. And then the final point on here will be discussed a little bit later on in the slide, but we reviewed with management one specific upcoming GASB pronouncement, which related to leases, which, although having no impact in the current fiscal year or current year reporting, we do expect will have a significant impact on the financial statements in the future.
So as it relates to the COVID-19 impact, we really wanted to communicate as to what transpired in our end and how we approached this. As we all know, March, our world changed drastically, and we really had to approach in understanding what were the pre-COVID controls and the post-COVID controls. For us, the risk really related to, in this work from home environment, were there any controls that were operating that needed to continue to operate to ensure that there's no fraud or incentives or opportunities for fraud to occur? So we really had the approach of understanding what controls changed to ensure these were still occurring and operating effectively. So it really was about having extensive communication with management. We had, obviously this is a unique environment to complete an audit in a virtual world. We had continuous communication with management. weekly, as well as any ad hoc moments that we needed to have conversations. We had conversations in terms of what the impact is of the service, if there were any needs to have furloughs or any terminations or any discussions in terms of deferred funding of benefits. What does this mean in terms of the financial statements? The silver lining at the moment was COVID occurred on Q4 of the service. As such, it really did not have a huge impact as of June 30th, 2020. There is a subsequent event, or not necessarily a subsequent event, but a footnote that we've disclosed within the financials. So when that is issued and finalized, you will see a whole COVID-19 footnote that addresses the COVID-19 impact of the service in the viewpoint of management. And as we know, COVID-19 is not going away. It's still very much in our lives. So we have to continue having those discussions, as well as the other impacts as things transpire regarding COVID-19 that are developed and new understandings of what the impact overall of the agency is.
So just to take a step back to this slide is going through upcoming GASB pronouncements and the impact of GASB 95. So GASB is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and they are the ones that prescribe what is required from a financial statement reporting standpoint for the service as a governmental entity. So they come out with pronouncements on an annual basis that may or may not impact the service based on applicability. And the specific standard that came out recently was GASB 95. And what this effectively did was, due to COVID, the board decided to effectively postpone all upcoming pronouncements for 12 to 18 months. So what this slide here is doing is showing all of the pronouncements that were to become effective within the next few years. All of these were delayed by 12 to 18 months. So not all of these will necessarily be applicable to the service, but management will go through the process over the next fiscal year or so to effectively evaluate whether or not any of these need to be adopted and accounted for in the financial statements in the future. So we'll continue on the next couple slides for a few of the final required communications. At the top here, we did not encounter any significant difficulties in dealing with management during the audit. As I mentioned earlier, they were very available and great to work with. In terms of significant written communications between management and our firm, the full package that was provided to the audit committee included a draft representation letter. So this representation letter will be signed by management at the very end of these of the audit procedures. Once we have that signed copy back, we will then be able to issue the opinion in the final financial statements. And then at the bottom, this is basically just reiterating that management does have the ultimate responsibility for accounting policies used by the service. And in the current fiscal year, there were no significant changes in overall accounting policies. There was one statement that the service and management decided to implement during the current fiscal year. It was GASB statement number 89 relating to overall interest costs incurred prior to the end of a construction period. This is denoted within the footnotes of the financial statements. However, it did not have a material impact in the current year. So at the top here, we just want to note that there were no significant or unusual transactions that we noted during the course of the audit. The second point here reiterates that we do review each and every year management's judgments and significant accounting estimates. As noted on that slide earlier, we did denote which specific lines we noted as being significant management estimates. And as I previously mentioned, we found that in each case, management's estimates were deemed reasonable. There were no audit adjustments that were made as a result of our procedures. What this means is that we received an initial set of financial information at the beginning of the audit, and based on the procedures performed, there were no adjustments made to those from the original information that was provided. However, there was one adjustment that was noted that management elected to not record in the current year financial statements. This relates to a legal dispute that was very recently settled upon within the last week or two, I believe, relating to a prior year services that were rendered in the prior years. The settlement amount totaled approximately $300,000. And it's also worth noting that a third party has agreed to also pay for that settlement amount. So what this tabular version here is doing is showing the impact here, and effectively there is no impact because it would be a wash. So essentially, if this were to be recorded, both the assets and liabilities would have been raised along with the revenue and expenses, meaning there would be a zero net impact on the overall net position for the service. So based on the timing of when this settlement was made and the overall timing of the audit, and given the fact that the amount was not significant to the overall financial statements, management is elected to not record the adjustments for fiscal year 20 and will instead record the impact in fiscal year 21. Sorry. Go ahead, Val.
Sure. And really lastly, in our other matters, we just wanted to point out there are still some additional reports that will be issued in addition to the Uniform Grant Guidance and the financial statement audit. Schedules of indirect costs and 6 customer report is in the process of being completed. We are awaiting support from management, but that will be performed subsequent to the completion of the audit. And lastly, one of the items that we really wanted to hone in and bring to the attention of both management and the audit committee is that GASB 87 lease standard. It has been postponed for 18 months, so it will be effective June 30th, 2022 for the service. However, this will probably have a large impact on the service, and we really want management to start assessing the overall impact and really work towards understanding the leases that they have so that when it's time to adopt, it is not that much of a harsh reality in that moment. So that is really it in terms of our presentation. We've always noted how we can be reached. And again, we had tremendous cooperation from management this audit cycle, and we thank them for their assistance.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I would like to add something. I want to thank Valerie, Andrew, and the whole RSM team for their cooperation, their professionalism, and their attention to details. It was a pleasure working with you. There are financial statements for fiscal year 20 attached in this presentation, and the RSM audit team and the MES finance team, management team has reviewed, and I do not believe there will be any substantial changes. So before the final statements are issued, some procedures like peer review, the management representation letter, but I do not believe there will be any substantial changes will be made to those financial statements, and it will be issued, the final statements will be issued maybe in a week to 10 days time.
Thank you very much, Hamid, for that. Yes, you're correct.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Any other comments or questions for the team before they leave us? All right. Well, it's been a pleasure working with you guys, and looking forward to getting that final report, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
All.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Jackson-Jenkins, I'm assuming that concludes your report.
Indeed it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on, Mr. Patel with the financial report.
So the labor sales for fiscal year 21 are lower than fiscal year 20. In fiscal year 20, we changed to Workday ERP system, which is booking the revenues based on the pay ending date. In our previous system, JD Edwards, it was based on check date. So for the entire fiscal year 21 will be one pay period less than fiscal year 20. So the labor sales are going to be lower than fiscal year 20. However, we budgeted accordingly, so we will meet the budget target for the labor sales. On the average, I think the labor sales will be about 10% less, but as you will see in the subsequent slides, it will not have a major impact on our net results. So for change in net assets, for actual fiscal year 21, we are at 1.6 million. And for whole year projection is about 3 million. The main contributing factors for better results this year is the reduction in the overhead, and also the fringe costs are lower because of one less pay period, which includes 401k costs are lower, holiday leave, personal leave, Social Security, all those costs will be lower as compared to the last year. So if you see the total net assets, usually it is around 50% is invested in capital assets and another 50% is the restricted and unrestricted cash balance. Maryland Environmental Service has a good cash position, and I do not see anything impacting our cash position or the net assets in fiscal year 21 or in near future. So as you can see here, the increase in net assets as of September is 1.6 million. Our budget for the full year is 3.1. When the budget was made, all the overhead cost savings were not included in it. So it looks like, we are doing better than what we expected for the budget. But some of these items like fringe benefit cost variance and the project variance are subject to fluctuations. It may, like the snow days, holiday season coming will make a big difference in the fringe variance because those are the costs that will be much higher in those periods. But we are pretty sure that we will at least do the same or or better than the budget for the full year of $3.1 million. So this is the whole fiscal year 21 financial plan, which I discussed in the previous slide. As you can see, the increase in net assets are expected to be 3.1 million. And even though our labor sales will be lower than last year, our recoveries will be higher, and it will make up the increase in net assets. We may do even a little better than that, but I have pretty much confidence that we will meet that expected increase in net assets. Any questions on any of this so far? Okay, so we do not have any presentation for the accounts over 90 days. As Dr. Glass mentioned, we are working with town of Sudlersville. The last information we received that we provided them the bank information for ACH transfer so that they can, when they're committed to it, they can do the electronic transfer instead of sending the check and check in the mail and when we receive it. So we are working towards that, and hopefully that will work out because Eric from our legal team, Jason, and we are all in constant communication with them. For other accounts receivable that were there in the past meetings, the Maryland Transportation Authority, they are processing the invoices for some of the product customers. We are working with him. We received some kind of assurances, and we are following with it, whether they stick to the payment plans or not. But we will focus more and more on this collection, trying to make the payment plans and make sure that, our clients stick to it. So that's all I had to say for past due accounts, because we are working diligently to reduce the past due accounts and offer reasonable payment plans to our customers who are falling behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Any questions for Mr. Patel?
This is Joe Smee, Dr. Glass. Where are we with Wise Recycling?
So my notes, it says the client has agreed to monthly payment schedule. I don't know what the payment schedule is offhand, but I will follow up on there unless someone know. But that's what my notes that I received yesterday say, that the client has agreed to the payment schedule.
Yeah, this is Sean. The client did agree to that. Unfortunately, they have not lived up to that. We did file suit against Wise Recycling, and they did not respond to our lawsuit. It appears they may not be in business in Maryland any longer. We're moving forward to get a judgment against them.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Is there any reason, though, MTA should be over 90 days to the tune of $250,000?
So I think they had a little delay in processing the invoices, but the last information I received that accounts payable has received majority of those invoices, and it is in process of payment. They did ask for more questions on one of the invoices, but I think the substantial amount of that $254,000 are in process, and we will be following up with it.
Mr. Gillespie, you have any comments on the Transportation Authority?
As Mr. Mattel has indicated, we don't see any reason why they're not being or not going to be paid. We did reach out to our primary contact there on the MOU earlier this week. We didn't receive a response back prior to this meeting, but we have been in contact with them over the last month and have been answering any questions they've had on the invoices. So far, there has been no indication that they're not paying for any of those.
Okay. So and update me in the next couple of weeks, and because I worked for the executive director in the past, so just let me know if it needs to be elevated.
Yes, sir.
Total revenue is coming back, so they should be okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Patel. Moving on to Ms. White, the Human Resources Report.
Good morning. We currently have 855 positions, and our vacancy rate once all our new hires are brought on board will be 3.87%. We continue to hire, bring on board new hires, and since COVID, we've brought on board 57 new hires.
Excellent. And so all the adjustments that the HR team had to make during COVID with video interviews and just relying on the website, that's been pretty seamless for you and the HR team?
Yes, it has. Jolene Mays, our HR specialist, she is just a whiz at doing that. And as you know, Dr. Glass, because you had a remote orientation as well, it is going well. Actually, I think in some ways it's a lot better than when the new hires came to headquarters, because now they really engage with the hiring manager, and hiring manager's right there to follow up with information that we share. So I think in a lot of ways it's better, and it also saves us on those who are coming on board from a distance. They don't have to travel all the way to Millersville.
That's excellent. Excellent. Any questions for Ms. White? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. White. Oh, we're going to do the board resolutions here. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I thought, yeah. So are you reading the announcements, or I should take over from here on the board resolutions?
It's totally up to you. I can do it, or you can do it.
Oh, go ahead. You do it, please, ma'am.
I have two resolutions for your consideration. Resolution 20-10-1R actually modifies the manner in which our senior management class earns annual leave as well as compensatory leave. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Good morning, Miss Jewel. How are you?
Good morning, Miss Jenkins. It's so good to see you.
You as well. So I think that this is a really good resolution. My only question would be regarding the compensation, the comp leave or the comp term, leave that is accumulated by the senior management.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a requirement that comp time is pre-approved before it is accrued? Meaning, if I need to stay 2 hours late, do I ask my supervisor if it's approved before I take it, or do I just go ahead and take it and then after the fact put it on my timesheet?
By policy, it is to be approved before.
Perfect. I
should know that you are just not just staying an hour after every day.
Well, that's the important piece to me in terms of supporting the resolution is, that it should be pre-approved comp time. And I don't know if you want to put it in the wording or just make sure when you, let folks know the new process that it has to be pre-approved comp time so that there's no misunderstanding when it's time to approve a timesheet.
Okay.
And that is my only comment. Thank you for your response.
So, are there any other comments on this resolution? I'd like to call for a motion supporting Ms. White.
This is Leslie. I'll move the resolution 20-10-1R.
This is JP. I'll second it.
Any discussion? Further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Resolution 20-10-1R passes. Ms. White, your next resolution?
Our next resolution is 20-10-2R, and you may also want to add to this one, Dr. Glass, it authorizes the Director of MES to be reimbursed for certain business expenses, which are outlined in the resolution. Are there any questions?
All right, going once, twice. Any questions, clarifications, discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Sorry.
Need a motion.
I'm sorry. I need a motion to approve resolution 20-10-2R. Can I receive a motion?
This is JP. I'll move this item.
Is there a second?
Morgan Hall, second. Morgan Hall, second.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the question. Please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? Resolution 20-10-2R passes. Anything else for you, Ms. White?
No, I'm done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to the Managing Director's group updates.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Banta. I'll be talking to you about the Seagirt Earth 3 dredging project. There's a visual down the bottom that is in blue. That's the Seagirt Marine Terminal, and the area of dredging there is denoted in the red areas. So our client on the project is the Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Port Administration, and they are working on this important project with Ports America Chesapeake as part of a better utilizing investment to leverage development Build grant. So the purpose of the dredging project is to accommodate the 50-foot ultra-large container vessels that are coming into the port. This is we just had the agreement signed with the port in early October, and the MOU amount is $10.25 million for this project. The dredging itself will be about 400,000 cubic yards, and the depth will be to 51 feet plus 1 foot of over depth dredging. And the areas to be dredged are shown in the upper figure. There's a gray area for berth 3, the Widener areas, which are the small triangular areas, and then also the turning basin, which is part of area 1. There's an additional 81,000 cubic yards of material to be dredged in that area 1. And that work is $1.8 million worth of additional work that'll be funded under the Energy Transfer Ports Agreement. The contractor the low bid contractor on the project was Great Lakes Dredge and Dock. And the work that MES and our consultant, Cahagan and Bryant, will be doing will be construction management, engineering and technical services, inspection, oversight, and contracting services. So for us, it'll be about $370,000 collectively with us and our consultant. Are there any questions?
With Great Lakes before.
Yes, we've done many projects with Great Lakes in the past. They're a fairly large dredging contractor that can get the work done, honestly, fairly efficiently.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Banta? Hearing none. Next slide.
Good morning, this is Jason Gillespie. I thought this work might grab your attention, Mr. Snee, from the AAR, so I thought I would include this as our group update for the month. So as you noted, work is returning with Baltimore County. We have one task currently underway with them, developing a flood mitigation plan. And this is upcoming work to actually look at some of the problem areas they have within the county, areas that they are seeing flooding. As part of this project, we will be updating their geodatabase to actually show where all their stormwater structures are, but we'll also be doing field condition assessments for their stormwater structures and be doing general engineering assessments as to why they might be seeing some flooding concerns, whether this is undersized piping or collapsed pipes or just maintenance work that needs to be done. We'll work with the county to then follow on and help develop the appropriate mitigation strategy after we do the initial condition assessment of the piping and determine what the issue might be with the area and why it might be flooding. So we're excited to get our staff back out there and working with the county in this regard. We'll be doing pipe inspections, manhole inspections, survey as noted here, and engaging our engineering staff as well. So multidisciplinary approach and working with the county. So we're looking forward to this. Any questions?
Yeah. Would you expect that some of these are aging facilities that may need to be replaced or substantially repaired?
Yes, sir. So as I mentioned, we're going to do an initial assessment, determine what the most likely solution is. Some of it just could be maintenance. Like I said, it could be a collapsed pipe. A lot of it, we really anticipate that the stormwater infrastructure is undersized just due to years and years of development, and they don't always upgrade the infrastructure to go along with that. So these might actually turn into capital improvement projects for the county that they take on. they'll make the decision on whether it becomes a CIP project for them. Is this something they're going to do in-house? There may be subsequent task orders to work through MES to get contractors on board, either to do design or construction of any of these upgrades. So we do expect there'll be infrastructure upgrades that have to happen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gillespie.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next slide.
Okay, Steve Tomczewski here, Environmental Operations. We highlight this month is on our food waste, food scrap collection in Montgomery County. You can see in the photograph, that's a specially wrapped food collection truck that MES purchased. MES supplies the driver, and we do the routing for that. And this really ties into what Dr. Glass spoke about with the meeting we have scheduled with Prince George's and Montgomery County to upgrade our marketing of leaf grow and looking at different products. All the material that's collected in Montgomery County under this program, the food scrap program, is taken to Western Branch to be processed with our existing Gore system down there. We're collecting, ultimately, we're looking at 9,000 pounds a week to be composted. We've been limited on this because of the COVID situation and the restaurant. All of our stops now are commercial. The restaurants reopening has caused us to be less collection than we anticipated originally. But the county has talked about expanding the program to include some homeowner pilot. So you'd have food waste collection from homes, which is an area that hasn't really seen a lot of activity in the state or in the country for that matter. So it's a pretty exciting program. And this is Adam Ortiz's favorite project. So that's important. Any questions?
Mr. Tomczewski, are we still getting scrap food from the University of Maryland College Park?
Unfortunately, that is an area that has been impacted dramatically by COVID. No, we are not. That's really dropped to zero. So that's unfortunate. Our food waste collection has gone down since COVID started. So all the different universities that we were collecting food scraps from has dropped, as you can imagine. And we're getting food scraps from the Smithsonian. That dropped off. That may be picking up a little bit now. The airport recycling has dropped off, and that's starting to come back now. So yeah, COVID's impacted those.
And is that Gore bunker system still the gold standard for doing compost?
Definitely. That's why it makes leaf grow gold. But it's currently the second largest food waste composter in the East Coast. There's one up in New York City that's just started up in the last year that's bigger. But it can do up to food waste can do about 32,000 tons a year of food waste. So we're pretty happy with that system, and it's done a great job.
And as I recall, when we were out there looking at it, we don't have any odor issues for our neighbors, do we?
No, we do not. And we are actually improving that. One of our capital projects for this year is to put up a clear span building with a biofilter. So all the food waste grinding will occur within that building, and that'll further help mitigate any potential odor issues. Of course, our next door neighbor is WSSC. So this wastewater treatment plant. So there haven't been any issues, to answer your question.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Tomaszewski.
Thank you.
Mrs. Crosby.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Hattie.
Good morning. Okay, item 1 It's a service contract for statewide household hazardous waste program. The contract is for the collection, transport, and disposal of hazardous waste materials at various locations throughout the state. This is a competitively sealed bid. The contractor is ACV Enviro, formerly known as Clean Venture, Inc. This is a 3-year service contract with 2 additional 1-year options. The modified term of the contract is through November 19, 2021. The original amount of the contract was $866,083.70. This amendment is the first of the option years in the amount of $300,000. The revised total contract amount is $1,166,083.70 with an MBE participation goal of 14%.
Would somebody explain the cost center parlance under the fund sources?
I'm sorry, Joe, can you repeat that question?
Yeah, the fund source. I don't recall seeing these cost center things for these various counties before. Mr. T, can you explain that?
Yeah, so in J.D. Edwards, there was only one structure called business unit, which will track the cost and the revenues by the project. So Workday has 2 structures, the cost center structure, which is like for mostly overhead cost centers that will accumulate all the cost and revenues for the overhead project. Versus there are project numbers in Workday, which keeps track of every project and every task. So the expenses are booked there, and then the revenues are booked there. So the fund source, we have, sometimes we get a federal funding, we get a state funding, and they paid by the counties. So we have a fund source of different numbers that will identify where the money is coming from. A lot of time in these proposals, we may not indicate the fund source, but when it comes to finance for approval, we know exactly who is going to reimburse, who is our customers, and all that accounting is defined by the fund source, the cost center number, the project number. Does that answer your question, or did I miss something?
No, it doesn't. So there's 8 counties, then you have Midshore, which I think is 4. So these costs are apportioned appropriately between all the counties?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I'll move.
Hey, I have a quick question, Joe. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Sean, if my county is included in this, should I abstain from this item?
I'm going to ask Steve, would you explain the relationship between the counties and these, the work that's going to be done under this agreement?
Well, the county set up the household hazardous waste events, and in conjunction with us, and we supply the oversight. We normally provide an employee out there who's like a liaison with the project or overseeing the work the day of the event. So we are involved directly with the counties, in Carroll County in particular. Yeah.
Thank you. My recommendation, JP, would be for you to abstain on this particular item.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
Good question.
Any other discussion? There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll move it. It's Leslie.
I believe Joe Snee moved it already, but you'll second, Ms. Jackson-Jenkins?
That's correct. I'll second it, the motion,
Thank
please.
you, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? And abstentions?
One abstention. This is JP.
Thank you, sir.
Item 2 is for the Prince George's MRF plastic line upgrades. This is addition of maintenance platform and old news sports screens to the existing equipment contract. This is a sole source supplier. The contractor is Van Dyke Baylor Corporation. The original term of the contract was 8/31/2020 through December 31st, 2021. The original amount was $5,911,340. This amount of the change order is $331,426. The revised total contract amount is $6,242,766. The current MBE participation on this is 1%.
And why is it sole source?
Joe, what was that? Why was it what?
Why is it sole source?
Sole source. That's the original OEM for the facility. So in order to interface with all the equipment we have there, it's all like Baylor equipment.
Oh, that makes sense. I'll move item 2.
Yeah.
This is JP. I'll second it.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions?
Leslie abstains.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, item 3 is for the Hawkins Point Hazardous Waste Landfill and Dundalk Marine Terminal. This is for line cleaning, inspection, and repairs. This is a competitively sealed bid. The contractor is Mobile Dredging and Video Pipe Inc. The amount of the contract is $744,600. The term is for 3 years, beginning the date of the notice to proceed, with 2 optional 1 years. The current MBE participation is 5%.
Any questions? Can I have a motion?
This is JP. I'll move this item.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Snee. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Next item.
The next item is item 4. It's an AE shortlist contract. This is for strategic planning support for reducing air emission at MDOT MPA public terminals. The contractor is Anchor QEA. The original term of the contract was from March 6, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. The modified term is through December 31st, 2022. The original contract amount was $227,391. This amendment to the contract is $270,000. The total revised contract is $497,391, and the goal on the MBE goal on the contract is 15%, and the contract is achieving 14% so far.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
This is Leslie. I'll move procurement item number 4.
Thank you. Second?
Morgan Hall, second. Morgan Hall, second.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Can I call for the vote? All indicate by saying aye. Sorry.
Aye.
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 Are there any nays? Are there any abstentions? Next item.
The next item is item 5, also an AE service contract. The contractor is Hannigan and Bryant Associates Inc., also known as GBA. The original term of the contract was from September 2019 through February 29, 2020. The modified term is through June 30th, 2021. The original amount of the contract was $158,868.39. There were 2 term extensions. The amount of this amendment is $177,361.80, and the revised total contract amount is $336,230.19. There is no MBE participation.
Any questions?
Yeah, Dr. Glass.
Sure.
Hydrographic, is that using sonar to convert things to 3-dimensional use?
I'll let Ms. Banta answer that question.
Yes, the answer is yes to that, Joe.
Isn't that a great picture, though? That's a great image on the right. I told Ms. Banta the other day I love that image.
I mean, I'd like to go out there and watch that. That seems fascinating.
Well, I guess visually, if you're sitting on shore and watching, it's a boat going by. But if you're on the boat, you can see it graphically portrayed on a screen. So it is pretty interesting.
I'd like to be on that boat. Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
Okay. Thank you. I'll move that item.
Is there a second?
Second.
That was Mr. Hall, I believe. It was a little quiet.
Negative.
Oh, that was negative. Who was that? Who was the second?
This is Mr. Hall, negative.
I believe Judge Smolkin was.
Judge Smolkin was. Okay, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Next item.
Okay, the next item is item 6. For hydraulic dredging, approximately 150,000 cubic yard of material from Lake Linganore and dewatering dredging material and transporting the material to Frederick County. This is a competitively sealed bid. The contractor is Mobile Dredging Video Pipe Inc. The original term of the contract was 730 days. The modified term is 1,120 days. The original amount of the contract was $12,712,140. There's been 3 change orders issued. The amount of this change order is $3 million and 250 days of to the modification of for 1,120 days and 22 cubic yard of additional dredging. The revised total contract amount now is $17,910,495. It has an MBE participation goal of 10%, and the contractor is currently achieving 6%.
This is Tammy. I just wanted to add, this was a presentation I gave at the last board meeting, and that Frederick County went before the Board of Public Works yesterday and received approval of a capital grant for $3 million. And so with that, we are requesting this change order to the mobile dredge and video pipe contract to allow this additional dredging to be done.
And I'll just add that at that Board of Public Works meeting, this project, after the county executive for Frederick County presented it, received a lot of high praise. Ms. Banta told me that I don't have to feel bad about the fact that MES was not mentioned for all of the great work that EDR is doing, but just for all of you know that this was another project that received a lot of praise, and our clients are extremely happy with it, and it has expanded over the time of the project. So it's great work. It's a great project, providing an awesome solution for Lake Linganore and the county and the city and the homeowners association associated with it. But just to get this, as you all know, that it's another great example.
So with that in mind, and the grant that was awarded, we don't have to worry about the Lake Leaguenor Association tuning up $4.8 million if they're on the hook for 25%.
Yeah, I don't think there's any concern about that. They've been planning for this project for years.
All right, well, that's very good. I'll move item 6.
JP, I'll second it.
Any questions? Call for the vote. All indicate by saying aye.
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 Nays?
Aye.
Sorry. Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Okay, item 7 is the Central Maryland Stormwater Remediation Maintenance Contract. This was a request for proposals. The contractor Stormwater Maintenance LLC, also known as Stormwater Maintenance and Consulting. The original term of the contract was December 1st, 2020. The modified term was option year 1, extended to December 1st, 2021. The original amount was $500,000. The modification date on option year 1 was $150,000. The amount of this change order is $500,000, and the revised total contract amount now is $1,150,000. There's an MBE goal of 29%, and the contractor is currently achieving 17.89%.
How do you define Central Maryland?
Mr. Gillespie.
So Central Maryland is primarily Baltimore area, Prince George's County, Montgomery County, pretty much anything that's not across the Bay Bridge and the Eastern Shore, and anything that's not to the west of Frederick.
Okay, so it includes Frederick, Carroll, Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and then on down?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
There are many definitions for it. I just wanted to know which one you're using. That's all.
Yes, sir. And the reason we highlighted this as Central Maryland is so that we would get proper bidders on the RFP, so that we could look for firms that were close to the areas that we would be doing work in. We didn't want to think that, someone with stormwater qualifications might be called to work on the Eastern Shore or in Garrett County, and would elevate their prices accordingly. So focusing just on Central Maryland helped get a better bid for us.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So where is the contractor located? Do you know, Jason?
So this contractor does have an office in Prince George's County. Actually, I'll point out, if you take a look at the picture there, that actually is a stormwater site that we toured as part of a previous board meeting when we were at University of Maryland, and then took a tour around Prince George's County for some of the work there that MES is doing. Stormwater Maintenance and Consulting is a firm that we're familiar with their work and the quality of their work through the partnership, actually, in Prince George's County as well. So we did know their qualifications as they bid on this work. They've got ample staff that works throughout the region as well.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that they are working towards meeting the MBE participation goal. Thank you,
Yes,
Jason.
Absolutely.
And with that, I'll move procurement item number 7 if it has not been moved already.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Next item.
The next item is item 8. for general labor service contract for the Montgomery County Yard Trim Compost Facility. This is a competitive seal bid also. The contractor is Earn Contractors, Inc. The original term of the contract was August 22nd, 2018 through November 30th, 2019. The modified term was from December 1st, 2020 through November 30th, 2021. The original amount was $462,250. The modified date of the first renewal was November 22nd, 2019, in the amount of $476,117.50. The amount of this renewal, which is the second, is $576,010. The revised contract amount is $1,514,377.50. There's an MBE goal of 30%, and the contractor is achieving 30.6%.
Just curious, did Earn Contractors spin off from Tito?
Mr. Tomaszewski?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes, the answer is yes, Joe.
Seems like that's the modus operandi.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. All right, I'll move item 8.
Is there a second?
Second, Morgan Hall.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? Thank you. And up now are the procurement notifications between 25,000 and 250,000. Any questions for Ms. Crosby, Mrs. Crosby on this? Hearing none. Thank you, Mrs. Crosby.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby.
You're welcome.
So old and new business. First before you are the proposed dates for the 2021 schedule. Are there any questions or concerns with the dates? If board members have already checked it against their travel calendars later in the year, or any family reunions, conflicts? Say again?
Doctor, I haven't gotten one of those things, so if you could have someone send it to me.
Mrs. Fuller will send it to you directly, and
yeah,
please check it against any family reunions or other events that you already have planned out in 2021.
Thank you.
It was actually the last page of the large PDF packet, but I will also send you an individual of just this page.
Yeah, would you? I've got somewhere around 1,200 pieces of paper sitting on a desk, and that's one of them. I'm sorry. It would be nice if you would just send me that one little thing. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Are there any other items for old or new business that anyone will want to bring up? Okay. One announcement I'd like to make before moving on to the next agenda item in old and new business is I would like to give a warm thanks to Mrs. Jackson Jenkins for all of her support during my first 4 months to the day, actually. And all of her years of service to the Maryland Environmental Service, we are thankful and will miss her, but I will still use her as a mentor and a counselor as long as she continues to accept my phone calls. This is her last board meeting on the board of directors, and I just wanted to warmly thank her for all of her guidance over these 4 months. I almost feel like I'm tearing up.
So kind of you. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Glass. It's been my pleasure working with you and, of course, with all the other long-term board members and the new board members. I've enjoyed my experience over the years, and I know that under your leadership and guide and your care, that MES is in good hands. Thank you again for your kind words and all of you all support over the years. Thank you again to Ms. Hattie Crosby.
Yes, we'll definitely miss you.
Yes,
I'm always available unofficially.
If you need a handkerchief, doctor, I've got one, so you can. If you need a handkerchief.
I see you, Judge.
Oh, you're giving me a hanky? Oh, thank you, Judge. New Day, we don't carry handkerchiefs with us or tissues. Well, I'm sorry.
That's classy. Very classy.
Okay.
Hey, this is Joe. I'm going to miss you, and it's been a pleasure serving with you. Throughout the years, you've been a huge asset to the board. You brought a unique perspective on recycling.
Joe, appreciate it, and I appreciate you as well.
So stay in touch, okay?
Indeed.
Leslie, it's JP. We're going to miss you greatly. I hope we can find someone to fill in that comes even close to your years of experience and knowledge, and I'm just not really looking forward to you leaving, but if you need anything, let me know.
I appreciate that, JP, and you and Morgan can fight over who can be the next chair of the audit committee because you both have the tenure.
Okay.
She can go to
Leslie, this is Morgan. Leslie, this is Morgan. I know that my time has been short here, but it's been a pleasure working with you. And I just wish you the best in your life after MES.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Morgan. It's been a pleasure working with you as well.
And with that, the next meeting will be November 19th. But I would like to announce. I'm sorry, just for your calendars. The next item after you recognize November 19th is the next board meeting date, is that I'd like to announce that the board will go into closed session. I would like to ask if anyone has an objection to the board meeting in closed session. All right, hearing none. I would like to note that we will be following section 3-305B1 of the general provisions article of the annotated code. If I can have a motion.
This is JP. I move we go into closed session.
And a second.
Second.
I would like to note before calling for the vote, and we will do so by roll call vote, but I would like to note that we are going into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. In addition, we'll be going to closed session to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. And finally, we will be going into closed session to conduct or discuss an investigative proceeding on actual or possible criminal conduct. And with that, I'd like to make a roll call for the vote. I'll let the clerk of the board call the roll. Or I'll do it if Ms. Fuller isn't ready. Ms. Fuller.
Oh, put me on the spot. Okay, Dr. Glass?
Aye.
Judge Smolkin?
Aye.
Mr. Snee?
Aye.
Ms. Jenkins?
I vote aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, Mrs. Fuller. Knowing that, following the closed session, we will be adjourning the board. The board members have received the information to attend, and with that, the board will now be moving into closed session. Thank you very much for a great board meeting.